Hello and welcome to the Greg Fearon podcast with your host, Greg Fearon. And today I have the awesome Katie Ford on the show, and she's going to tell us everything she does because she's a bit of a magician with your mind and your body. Hey, Katie, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Greg, for having me. Thank you for inviting me on. I work through the mind, body, and the soul. So the transformation for me comes from all three, through my own experience and then working with thousands of ladies. So I transform through each element, mind, body, and soul transformation coach. Yeah.
Awesome. So obviously I met you, just maybe not even a year ago, maybe?
Yeah, I think we are just saying, weren't we? Probably, I think it was back beginning of the year.
Yeah. And you always struck me as quite a deep soul. So just give people a little bit of your background and your backstory as to how you got to where you are now.
Oh, wow, how long you got? But
The condensed version, right?
I'll give you the really short version. Come from kind of like an athletic background. And I went on to decide that. So my dad was a coach, being very inspired by kind of that athletic forum. Went on to do my degree, and yeah, started personal training. Fascinated by people and their habits and behaviors and what have you. Obviously went down the personal training route, but was just fascinated by the mind. So I went on my own journey as well. Was often in search of kind of happiness and all that part, as we often are. But I was like, I'm going to go even deeper with this shizzle. And there's one thing that my dad left me with when he passed away and is no longer in this realm. I was only 17 at the time, so that was very challenging at the time, because I lost not only my dad, I lost my coach, my kind of supporter, and my whole life was kind of in athletics at that time. So my dad was very much a bit of a philosopher, a bit of a, looking back now, I think we'd have had interesting conversations. But yeah, so that was in my genes in that sense. And he left me with this one message, like, whatever you want to be when you grow up, make sure you're happy. And I just used to laugh when I was little. But then this kind of left a very profound mission of mine, like to look actually what is true happiness. So I kind of like went on a bit of a mission myself to find that. Tripped up a few times, made mistakes, also had many glorious moments and successes off the back of that. And then kind of come into a place where I was like, this is my purpose. Like, my purpose is helping people on this journey. And for me, happiness, I tried it with the body, went on to bikini competing. So had a body that even I look and go, wow, how did I do that? But with a lot of discipline that comes from the athletic background and what have you. Then mindset wise as well, like obviously we know that happiness comes from the mind, but for me it comes from understanding what your soul really, like connection, that higher consciousness, that higher being connected to something bigger than you. So within my journey, it kind of went body, it went mindset, and then for me now, it's soul as well. So I've used that within my work of how I connect those three elements together. Meet the lady where she's at, but for me, that's what gets you the happiness. And often in the search of happiness, we won't find it. We've just got to be. So yeah. So that's kind of like part of the journey in a little roundup to where I got to now.
Wow, I don't even know where to start. All right, so let's unpick this for the ladies that will be listening back to this. So just talk me through what athletics and that discipline kind of taught you. What was the big lesson?
Um, the discipline. I mean, for me, with discipline, there comes the element of success, like with for me personally. But discipline has, I think our coach often explained this as a pendulum. Discipline as a pendulum, when it goes too far one way, it can be very punishing. So for me, I was very hard on myself. I was very, very harder on myself than I've ever been on any clients or anything like that. Because it was like, if I said I'm going to do it, I'm doing it. And that created a lot of great things in my life, but it also created a lot of pain, because if I said I was going to do it, then I'm doing it. So that discipline, I was like, imprisoned by. And I've worked a lot on myself with that to be able to come to a balanced place with discipline, which I'd like to say that I'm finding that balance more in my life than I ever have done, which has created a lot more happiness. And I must admit, I mean, we like the ice baths, what we went on with the mastermind, that was very, very scary for me because I was working on that part of me and I know how disciplined I could be. So the thought of not being able to do it was like, oh my God. So that was a bit of a benchmark of where I think I needed to find that discipline back in my life because I had to let it go for a bit to be able to bring it back to then come to this place. And that's what I think is really important for anyone, is finding the balance between discipline and punishment, I'd say. Yeah, punishment on self.
But does balance really exist? So it's just something I've been querying a lot myself. Does balance really exist? Because obviously there's this pendulum.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like we kind of balance some plates and we then drop a few to then balance some other plates rather than there being this true balance. I don't know. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. I guess it's like where the tokens land, isn't it? If you look at tokens on a scale, and we've got to sometimes go. We're always going to be. I know you can't see me on the podcast, but I'm now kind of like balancing my palms upside down. It's that push pull, isn't it? So yeah, I agree. I understand where you're coming with that, but I think it's a sense of within self that balance feels. Do you know? Know when you feel. I guess. Do you know what a better word would be? In flow.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
We're always like something is flowing, isn't it? So that would mean that we're not just at that center point, but we're able to then kind of move between to flow. Yeah.
What feels good for you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that would lead on to then something about identity, because I guess, and something you've probably seen a lot in your work as well, is our clients often label themselves something. It's normally, I'm a fixer, I'm a doer, I look after everybody else.
Yeah.
When people adopt these identities, where do you think that comes from?
Oh, wow. Probably some of it childhood, maybe because we often can be the fixer, the overachiever, the rebel, all these archetypes that they come. So sometimes it can come from what you're told from your guardians and the people that and your parents and the people that you're around. And then maybe you then adopt that and it becomes like maybe like an attachment, like, because if I'm something, I mean something, don't I? But when I guess that's where my soul work comes in. When we drop all that, who are we as a soul? Like when we take the masks off, who are we as a soul? What lights us up from that, rather than what we've been told or what we believe, and what becomes that identity that can be quite is that a word, imprisoning? That's, I'm sure people know what I mean by that. Yeah, like it can, because then we can block ourselves, or we can be capable of many other things than what that mask or that identity traps us in. It's like breaking that down is, that's exciting, isn't it? Like, what could we be if we weren't that identity, or weren't that or it could be part of us. It's like I explain to my clients, we have so many parts of us, and when we can start to understand that maybe one part of us is the fixer or the whatever it may be, and that may serve us in some way, but like, what about all these other fascinating parts that we've not yet explored or able to become friends with?
Well, it's almost, I had a picture in my mind as you were saying that, of someone stuck at the sea holding onto a bit of wood. The ship's sunk and they're holding onto this bit of wood. But if they let go of that bit of wood, the island's right there.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Yeah. And what's on the island, we don't know until we get in the flow with the sea.
I guess people have fears, right? They have fears that there's sharks in the water, if we're going to carry on using that analogy.
Yeah.
These sharks aren't really there, right?
Yeah, sometimes it's the power of the mind, isn't it? The power of what we call the ego, as in the monkey brain that tells us all these scary things, and it's how we bring that on board with us, isn't it? Bring it on board with us to enable not to be scared off by our own thoughts. I mean, sometimes we're more scared by our own selves than we are from anything on the outside. And when we start to, that's what I always say is, your internal home is the best place to have a nice, and what I say, family at the dinner table, talking to each other, which is our thoughts and how we speak to each other and those parts. Yeah, that's when life gets a little less scary and you can have a bit more fun.
And relax and not have to play up to these big archetypes that we've, all these masters you said that we've created. We've just created them, haven't we?
Yeah, it's like is often what we don't realize we're doing is we're creating a whole pantomime, and we can just relax a little bit more and realize that the ending, it's not about any of the ending, it's the journey, isn't it? But if we've got these voices and these scaring ourselves, then we're often blocking ourselves before we've even allowed the visualization to finish of what we could be capable of.
So I'm gonna just I'm a bit random, as you know.
Oh my, this should be fun.
Yeah, I reckon we're probably the same or similar personality type, I reckon. So what made you decide to do a bikini competition? I've always been fascinated by the body transformation as well as the mind transformation. So I'm just curious, what made you decide to do it and how hard was it?
Okay, so first of all, one of the main reasons is I was craving actually that what I was explaining about with the athletics, like the aiming for something and then like seeing the body as for that was like a project for me. So I was like seeing the body as a project and it changing, but I missed that competitive part of me. Yeah. And what was great about what just to clarify, the bikini competing that I did was quite different. It was not just about the body or the aesthetics. We did athletics like different. Basically, if you look a little bit like before CrossFit got kind of big, it was like pull-ups, press-ups, skipping, sprints. And so we did that in the morning. So that enabled me to go, that's why I'm doing it, because I like all the athletic side. And because like, why, like, what do you want to do that for? And there's part of me that thought, what the hell do I want to do this for? This is crazy. But I also walked into an amazing community of women because it was an amazing competition, and it was all about empowering women. So it was like their motto was a little bit like G.I. Jane meets Miss World. So that really appealed to me. So it kind of like, for me, part of me was, you know, when they sometimes say ignorance is bliss, like I just knew that I was like, I want a goal, and and also there was a girl that was actually going, you'll be amazing at it and you'll love all the girls. And I was like, okay, I'll try this out, because I'd had these thoughts of doing the bikini can't meet. So I walked into a community that was amazing, and it gave me a lot of inspiration for where I'm at now. Because it was there was loads of I ended up taking about 20 ladies through the process myself, and this competition was very inclusive, which is like the things that I've done with Shine Bright Like a Diamond, because I think all women come in so many different beautiful forms that for me, that's one thing that I didn't particularly like about the bikini competing, is that you have to be this certain way, and if not, that means, well, you don't score high, you're not, and what would the woman would feel she's not good enough. And the way that with the competition that I did, there was like bikini competing. There was bikini, there was diva, there was beach model, then there was also Monroe, which was like, so you Monroe was like kind of like you're just more shapely girl, and then. So everybody was welcome and invited, as I feel it should be. So that it was a beautiful place to be, and especially to take women that I coached through it. It was very empowering, and that's what gave me a lot of my inspiration for my Shine Bright Like a Diamond that I did, which was an empowering program for women, and Walk Down a Catwalk, Your Transformation, and what have you. So was it hard when I was in the thick of it, when I was doing some of those things? There were testing times, like when it's your birthday and all you can think about is like having a glass of wine or what have you. It's like, so yeah, it was testing, but it was equally like rewarding as well, do you know? And I must admit, I probably did it at a point in my life where I was a bit more, I'd say, sensible around kind of like eating behaviors and things like that. I wouldn't say perfect. I've had my moments of massive imperfectness, disordered eating and what have you. But at that time, I did have a bit more of a relaxed approach to an extent. Like I wasn't just eating fish and rice cakes, put it that way. I was eating it round.
Chicken and broccoli every day and sweet potato. is already
used to do a lot of like I help ladies with like the posing and stuff like that because I used to dance, so I used to love helping them out with their posing and just basically just being that Sasha Fierce when they walked on the stage. But some of them used to come, and the stuff that they were eating, they were just like shadows of themselves, like because they were eating in such a strict way. And I think for them, they were my biggest teachers in some ways, because I was like, whoa, I might want to do well at this game, but I don't want to lose my marbles. Do you know what I mean? I've got a lot of women that I'm coaching as well. So I guess I had a bit more of a sensible approach with it. So yes, it was testing at times, but I managed to get my mind on board and be a little bit more sensible.
Okay, perfect. So you moved on from that, and you've obviously done lots of personal training and helping people. And how important is the physical to go with the body, with the mindset as well? Because you can't have one without the other, right?
Yeah, yeah. And this is like, that is exactly as I like share it with my clients and the ladies that I work with. It's like the body. So we healthy body, healthy mind, healthy body. Like it works in connection with each other, because we can't expect to feed the body shit, like literally like crap food, and expect the mind to be flourishing. And we can't expect the other way. So if we are feeding the mind with shit and crap, I'm very real, by the way, and expect the body to be responding in a positive way, and the cells of the body to be nourishing. So this comes with a two-way of looking at things that I'm really, really, really kind of that I share with my clients. Like, it's so important, because we've got to get that balance between the two. And I say balance, but let's say flow between the two, because the body is the temple, isn't it? The body is like it's the vehicle that we're here with. So we've got to nourish it and look after it in that way, as we have the mind, because then when they both complement each other, that's when we really feel revitalized and feel more at peace and feel better about life and feel happier.
I guess it's almost like an infinity loop, isn't it? And the brain and the body are opposite ends, and it's just literally just flowing between each other, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So if we don't sleep right, eat right, and you don't have, like you said, you don't have to be perfect, but as
Yeah.
long as you nourish yourself to the right amounts, the brain works better and everything else becomes better. So
Yeah. And I just think in this society, as things have been before, it's just and I have hope. I was saying this to you before, like I'm ever the optimist, and I'm seeing things changing massively, because like I said, through my own journey of feeling like, for example, I probably didn't explain when I did the bikini compete, and I still didn't feel right. And it was like, right, it's now time to work on the mind. So I've been tackling that since probably like 2014, 15. I just feel that a lot of what we see in society is all body, take this, train like this, do this, then you're going to feel better. And then people are getting there. And like, I've even had it, hence the reason why I've gone into mindset. The woman's got to the size 10. She's got whatever it may be, bullshit to what they are. It's how you feel, but like got to that, what they wanted. And then they're like, oh, I don't actually feel that much different. Yeah, I can fit in my clothes and I feel, but I didn't, it's that expectation of it being this certain something. But if we've not worked on the mind and the behaviors and how we feel about ourselves, then we're just going to remain empty within this body that we actually was so seeking for, which was my experience. Like it was like, whoa, that didn't give me what I expected. But I think society, and I hope now, like I'm hearing a lot of coaches, which excites me, that people are starting to realize that it is a two-way game. We've got to look at the mindset as well to be able to feel whole.
I guess one thing that I guess I'm seeing a lot with my clients, and I'm sure you've seen, is that people don't have a dream anymore. Really freaky. Like if you think about it, when we were four, the teacher would always say, "Greg, what do you want to be?" And you could go wild, right? I wanted to be like the Black David Attenborough. And then
Wow.
I saw the spiders in the Brazilian rainforest, and I was like, forget that. David can have it. But people don't dream nowadays. I mean, where do you think that comes from?
Yeah, and I guess this goes into a little bit like the soul work that I do as well, is like that's like coming back to the inner child, isn't it? It's like allowing that inner child to come forth and allow it to dream, because I have no idea why. Like, there's so many factors to why we probably start capping ourselves and not dreaming. But for me, that's not life. Like we can do and be and have anything that we want if we get our mind in the right place, as well as the vehicle, the body that's functioning. Like we Yeah, so I guess dreaming is about connecting with that little inner child that has dreams, and sometimes doing those things which light you up, because that's when you can actually have time. And well, it's just you're in, I mean, we keep, this must be a profound word that's part of this podcast, but you're in flow then. I don't know whether anybody's heard of Abraham Hicks, and it's all about when you're in the flow doing things you enjoy, that's when the magical thing, that's when you know what to do next, you know. So I
Yeah.
guess dreaming is, for me, I don't know why people don't dream anymore. Maybe people should ask themselves that question. But
Oh,
I like to dream
oh,
as much as I can.
it's really funny because I've really been working with clients on that. And the first thing before we start anything nutrition or any of that stuff, I'm like, what's the dream? And people's faces are just like, I thought I was going to get calories and macros. I'm like, hell no, hell no. We want to work on what's going on up there. So yeah, and is that something you work on with your ladies, and you've got a diamond program or something like a
Yeah.
diamond program? Is that something you really focus and get them to start thinking about?
Yeah. In the Diamond Method, one of the pinnacle ones is like inner child work. So connecting with the inner child.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And looking at kind of like what lights you up, because if you do more of that, life will move in a direction that feels a lot more beautiful. But sometimes it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be like dreaming. Doesn't think sometimes when we say dream, it's because it's so profound, like, oh, but what happens if that dream doesn't happen? Or what happens if I can't have it? Which then all these scary thoughts
Mm,
we talked about earlier come in. But what about if it can just be what lights you up?
mm.
Like, what makes you feel like time is no longer, like, you don't look at the time, you don't know what day it is, you're just in that moment doing what you're doing. And
Mhm.
everybody's, it's different, but we do more of that, and life will travel in a direction that feels good.
I feel like we're singing from the same hymn sheet here, in that I kind of feel like people are coming, definitely from places of pain. Right.
Mm,
So this is why people sometimes have these behaviors that bounce back, because you have the pain. Let's just say I want to lose some belly fat, classic example. But that's
yeah.
coming from a place of pain rather than what they actually want to become. So you get away from the pain, you take a painkiller, ibuprofen, get rid of the headache for a while, but actually it could be your eyes, and that's the long-term issue. So
Yeah.
is that something you observe, that a lot of people kind of come from this need to get rid of something or to lose something or to
Yeah, I guess people are, I mean, it's just sometimes I think, is it the way that the human mind works, is we're wired to direct a self away from pain, aren't we? However, it's like the fun and the excitement is in what's it gonna, what do you want to feel like, who do you want to be, who do you want to be in the process, because that's what's going to direct you more towards sometimes where you didn't even realize you were going to be. Like sometimes we can have a goal and then go, actually, no, this feels better. Do you know, this is me. That's why I call one of my programs, This Is Me. Do you know, like we sometimes can have that curiosity for life rather than sometimes, yeah. So I think it's quite a limiting just feeling of trying to get away from the pain. What about all the amazingness that can come when we allow ourselves to dream and move towards that? Yeah.
but I don't deserve it, Katie. I don't deserve to be happy. Why should I be happy?
Then I would go to, for me, I mean, this is where I get curious, like a little Inspector Morse of where these beliefs come from. So for me, you've got to know why they feel they don't deserve it. And some of this stuff, 95% of the time it comes from childhood, and it comes from sometimes a voice that's not yours. Whether it be through, not always parenting, but other kind of relationships we've had in his past. Sometimes a lot of them voices aren't our own. We believe that they are. So not deserving, it's like, let's get really curious about where that comes from. It's just telling someone that they deserve it is just like, that's not gonna wash. It's like, right, let's go down, let's have a look a bit deeper. But that's why I love doing the subconscious work that I do, which actually is it's a lot more pain-free in the sense of that, like, so I take people into hypnosis, and we get to the subconscious part of the brain to see where the root cause of why someone feels they aren't good enough, why someone feels that they don't deserve something, because there will always be something profound that may have happened in your life, but it probably not be as scary as you actually think. Like, some of these things happen at the really young ages that we've then adopted. And then something can trigger us in our adult life, and then we go back to that story and that we don't deserve, or we don't. So it's like, for me, I'm just like, yeah, give yourself the opportunity to get curious over that first, and know that it's not all of you, it's only part of you.
And sometimes the stories become habits almost. It's almost like we've forgotten what the emotional issue was in the first place.
Yeah.
And it's just become so habitual now. And when you ask someone, you're like, why'd you do that? I don't even know anymore. But
Yeah.
that's where you have to dig, as you said, into the subconscious story about what it means and what makes people do it, right?
Yeah. And we've all been there. And you know what? Even as us as fallible human beings, even as coaches, like, we all have our little points where we have to question our limiting beliefs and question these stories that come into our head. It's just that I think you just get better at questioning and better at getting curious and saying, nada, I'm not letting that part come in. Like, I've seen you, I've heard you, you've been there, and you've stopped me doing X, Y, Z. You ain't stopping me moving there. It's like, it's always a game. It's always I say life's a game. It's like, we're like little Sonic hedgehogs reaching that next level. And even when you get to the next level, it's like, oh shit, all these things, these new bloody monsters are coming at me now. It's like every level has a new devil. It's like, we're always progressing. Like, we're always working on it, no matter. Like, I know I am purely human and purely imperfect.
Because we are infallible. Well, we are fallible. We infallible, I wish. But this is why we have coaches, right?
Yeah. And if we didn't have so did you say that's why we have a conscience?
A coach.
A coach. Oh, a coach. Yeah. Me, I've got a right team. Anyone thought I was Usain Bolt?
You can be Usain Bolt if you want to be.
So I always share that. I mean, I did a post a bit ago about, like, I looked, and for me, it's been the best investments I've ever made, because, like I said, my home, like, I could have actually probably bought another home with the amount I've invested, but that's my choice. And that's worked out well for me, in the sense that my internal has got nothing but more peaceful, and I've had nothing but, like, more, like, success. Not always, definitely, like, success comes in all different ways. Like, for me, success is being more peaceful and what I say. For me, a coach, yeah, and they're able to, not that you always want it, but they show you your shit as well, because we all need to see that. And sometimes then we move past it, because if not, we just stay in it, and no one likes to trample around in their own shizzle.
But then you have that, because we both, our coaches probably both made us cry many a time.
Yeah.
Then you get that tired bit after it, and then after, yes, this feels
broke. Yeah, because that's what I say. Like, we're a layer of an onion. Unless someone helps us to move past that kind of, like, layer, like, that layer is that, but that there's that freedom and that peace that comes over the other side of going, oh, okay. It's like sometimes when it gets, what I try and explain to my clients sometimes is, like, sometimes when it gets the most sticky and it gets the most, like, just damn right sometimes really bloody challenging. I'll be like, this is good. Like, this means you're breaking, you're moving through. It doesn't feel like it now. The head wants to tell you that it's like you've gone backwards and I was like, no, trust. This is where the shift happens. This is where you move into a new, like you said, the version of you. And like we said, you drop in the old identity to move into a whole new place. That what could you do without that baggage anymore? And now that is like, that's exciting, isn't it? It's like, yeah.
It's like you know, we know that I didn't know this until the other day that spiders actually shed their exoskeleton.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so like, you know, snakes shed their skin, spiders or the big types and the tarantulas, they actually
Yeah.
shed a whole new spider comes out. That's what we're doing with that stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And the version just gets less scary because maybe it gets a little less smaller.
That spider looked very big to me. This is why I was David Attenborough. So what would be the kind of, if someone was listening to you now and said, I like this lady, I want to hear what her kind of top tips are for navigating life, what would they be? What would you leave someone from this podcast and say, right, if you tried this today, it would move you forward in your life?
A good tip would be ask yourself better questions. So like sometimes, so if we're looking at this in terms of more mindset and then moving on to kind of like transforming, I'd say like really just get better at, and I guess that leads me on to saying like that sometimes that little inner voice that you hear there, like allow it to be a part of you, like outside of self, not you. Do you know? So you can, I mean, I have a good laugh with some of my clients and say, what should we call it? And we've had everything from Deirdre to bloody, I mean, some of them have swore and used whatever, but then you can actually be aware of the fact that it's not you. That's not you that's saying those. So a tip would be detach yourself from that voice, maybe have a laugh and call it a name, and then you can see where it's propping up in your life. And also as well is just like, I mean, let me go with some of the stuff that I've shared today is connect with your inner child. Like life is about living and having fun. Like, so how can you connect with that little inner part of you? Because like that is what lights you up, like what often you enjoyed doing as a kid, because the more that you do that, the more that you will move into life and life will start to show you the way to go when you are in that place of what we call like flow and excitement, because we can get really serious as adults, and who says that we have to become serious? Because we don't, we really don't. And then I guess this is a little bit more cliche, but like just spending more time like in the moment, in nature, and doing things which, because a lot of what I work on with women, and this is a big one that I'm sharing at the minute, and I'm kind of getting loads of like downloads about it, is looking at our feminine masculine energy, and like the collective, as a collective, we are so in the masculine energy. I mean, this is like a podcast for another time, but like, how can you like, for example, how can you step more into like, not the doing, like we're always think we're succeeding if we're doing and we're action and everything's got to be like in that like more masculine energy. It's like, but like, how do we move more into nature, flow more, connect more with that like intuition? Because if we get the voice out of his head that's being the little bugger, you know, like chatting away, and actually listen to the soul, the inner being, the inner voice, like the inner that's guiding us, that's more when we're in this feminine energy. That's powerful. But even if you just Google, how do I get into my feminine energy? Trust me, life will get better. This is not to do with male and female, by the way. We all have feminine and masculine energy within self. But yeah, that's some stuff that I share because it creates wholeness within self. So I hope those tips help. They were quite big ones, but
No, they're good ones. I think there is
I like to leave people thinking. I like to, like, sometimes I think that's the joy of life, isn't it? Like sometimes I may have said something you think, what the hell's she on about? Like, go and explore it, because that's what another tip I'd say is never stop learning, never stop being curious, because that is, as a child, that's what we did. That's where we keep progressing and moving forward. When we're stagnant, that's when it gets all a bit sticky and smelly and crap.
I call that EastEnders living.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if anyone watches EastEnders who is listening to this or watching this on YouTube, that's that place is never happy.
Yeah.
But they continue to live there.
Mm.
Yeah, that can't be fun. And people watch
Yeah.
and take it in. And I know we need to have our own little relaxation, but yeah, that's you say if you don't come out of that little bubble that you're in all the time.
Yeah. And it's understanding that it's scary sometimes, because that's sometimes like where people find comfort in disassociating. But there's that little voice inside them that says there's got to be more. And if you listen to that voice, there's got to be more. Then even if it's just, do you know what? I'm not going to watch EastEnders today. I'm going to go for a walk. That is one step moving forward in a different direction. So it doesn't have to be big, massive moves. It can be one little bit at a time that just takes you into a new place, and then you just never know where it can take you. That's the exciting bit. That's dreaming.
Awesome. Do you know, I feel like this podcast, if we let it could go on forever. So I'm gonna I would love to have you back for a part 2. We can talk about and stuff. That's awesome. For the ladies who want to get to know you more, just tell us where they can find you, and I'll include that in the show notes. Where can they listen to you and understand more about you?
Yeah, the main place is on my Facebook page. So Katie Ford. So you can add me on there. I've also got my website. It's Katie, so letter KT 4D. Okay. At www.kt4d.co.uk. So like the little initials, but mainly my place that you will discover and learn more and kind of like connect with me is on my Facebook and Instagram. My Instagram is Coaching with Katie Ford, but my Facebook is just Katie Ford, plain and simple.
We see all the diamonds and the diamond method and all that.
You will see, yeah, diamonds and this is and all that shizzle. Like love a bit. We've all got a diamond waiting to shine inside all of us. Just allow it polished.
I'm looking forward to catching up with you at beginning of the week, at end of this week.
Yeah, Sunday. Yeah, can't wait.
Yeah.
Can't say I'm excited about the ice baths, but we've got to do the shizzle too.
Those of you listening, we're going to be doing ice baths every day.
Challenge ourselves. We have no idea what's going to be coming. Like that's like how a lot of us clients feel. So trust me. So it's about putting yourself on the other end of that, the side of the spectrum.
We can do it. We can do it. We got this. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and your energy. And I'm looking forward to a part 2. And yeah, for those of you who are listening, share this with your friends and family. I think you'll get some awesome value, and go follow Katie. Talk soon. Next episode. Bye.